Welcome to Inspirational Journeys, everyone. My name is Ann Harrison, and this week on this special episode, I am talking to V. Romas Burton, author of the Heartmaker trilogy, and we will get into that more in a minute. But first of all, I just want to let you know that she launched her book on October the 5th, which was last week. So, as you're hearing this, so welcome to the show, Vanessa.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to have you, and it was nice to meet you at the Kingdom Writers Conference about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks
Yeah.
ago when you're hearing this. Um, so why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners and the viewers out there?
So like Anne said, my name is Vanessa. I write under the pen name V. Romas Burton. My This is my first trilogy, my debut series. It consists of the books Heartmaker, Heartmender, Heartbreaker, and Heartrender. It is an award-winning series and has sold a good amount of copies. I'm very proud of it. Young adult fantasy. I've been writing for, I'd say, about 5, 6 years now. So it's exciting to have a trilogy under my belt. My The next book in my newest series is coming out in February, so I'm super excited for that as well. I am married. My husband is a soon to be major in the Air Force, and I
Oh,
have two little boys as well, so I stay busy.
it sounds like it. I really. So, what inspired you to become a writer?
Well, when I graduated from grad school, I kind of was confused at where I wanted my life to go, and nothing really had turned out how I planned, and I was a little lost. And so I had a really good friend who was like, "Hey, why don't you try writing for fun? It's a really good outlet to help you kind of get through these hard times and confusing times, um, and just try it." And so I did that. It's just as a fun thing, as a fun exercise. Wrote a couple stories, and I'm like, "Hey, I really like this." I've always been an avid reader. I was always the kid in like elementary school, middle school, had like the stacks of like 15, 20 books, from the library. So I've
Hmm.
always loved reading. But I had never really wrote anything for fun until then. And so it just kind of evolved from there. And I really have enjoyed the journey and the process of it.
Oh, that is awesome. So, was fantasy like one of the biggest things you love to read? Is that why you started writing it, or is there a story behind that?
So there is a story behind that. Just it's so funny. So I actually really love murder mysteries, but like classic, like Sherlock Holmes, um, Poirot, Miss Marple, Agatha Christie's characters. If you don't know who those
Oh,
are, and I love those so much. And I really didn't get introduced to fantasy until I worked at a bookstore. And so when you're, shelving books and selling them to other customers, you get curious when you see a cover go by. And so I actually saw the cover of Cinder, the first book in the Lunar Chronicles, which is a young adult fantasy series and now one of my favorite series. And so I was like, I'm not sure about this. There's like a cyborg foot on the front. I don't know. But I ended up reading it because I just kept on seeing people buying the cover and saying it was so good. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna read it, and then if I don't like it, I'll have to read the rest of the series. Well, I got hooked. I loved it. I fell in love with it. It was so good. I mean, like read through the whole series. And there's 4 books in the series. Well, there's a prequel as well, but 4 main books in the series if you don't know. And it's just fantastic. They are like fairy tale retellings, mixed with like a little bit of sci-fi and stuff. And they're just so well done. Very exciting stories and just the right amounts of adventure, like humor, romance, all that stuff. And so I'm like, I love this. I love this. And so I just like got hooked on fantasy after that. But as for writing, I actually started writing contemporary pieces first. And then I just didn't like how they sounded. I just didn't like being confined, I guess, to the structures of our world. So I'm like, I would like to make up my own world, and so I just kind of went from there. And I've never looked back, and I've really enjoyed it a lot.
wow, that's amazing. So, and I must say, I'm reading the first book of the trilogy, and I like how you interweave your love of mystery into the fantasy.
Thank you. I was recently talking to a good friend of mine, and we agreed that though there are big genres of books like fantasy, mystery, science fiction, and things like that, that every good novel has a little bit of everything in it. Though it may be like a really fantasy novel, there's still like the mystery of what's really going to happen, and the adventure, like the quest of getting there, and like, if there is there a romance, something like that. So I think that a good novel has like a little snippet of everything in there to make it well rounded.
I like that. So we'll talk about the books in a minute, but let's talk about your writing process. So when you wrote the books, did you do any plotting or outlining, or did you just pants it from
So
page
it's
one?
so funny because me as a person, like as a student in college and everything, I am a type A, like list maker, planner, calendars, all this stuff. When it comes to writing, that like goes all out the window. Like I cannot for the life of me plan a story unless I sit down and just like rewrite it and just see what happens. So my first drafts are very, very, very rough, but usually about halfway through the story I'm writing, I kind of get the plot I like going, and then usually from halfway on to the end, it's like pretty solid. But then I have to go back and like fix the entire beginning, and it happens every single time.
Yeah,
So,
and
um,
it's funny you should mention that because sometimes your best laid plans, God will say, "Yeah, right, we're gonna do it this way."
oh, completely, completely. Like there, like I'm currently writing the third book in my next series right now, and I thought I was gonna go this one way, and I was gonna like add these different things in, and it's like, nope, that's not happening, and like it's gonna go this way instead. And it's like, all right, cool, I'll follow
Yeah,
it.
because I was trying. Speaking of mysteries, and I've told people the story before, but I'll tell you, I was trying to write a well, it was going to be and I didn't know a lot about mystery genres. It was going to be a mystery with a journey that was in it because of dreams of climbing that I've had after past life
Mhm.
experience. Okay, that when I originally published it, it started out okay, but then the ending of it kind of went wonky, and I think I went all over the place. So,
Yeah.
um, and then I start trying to turn it into a psychological thriller, Christian psychological thriller with supernatural and oh gosh, what do they call that? Anyway, with some supernatural elements. Lord help me. But the thriller idea, I'd get so far, and then it's like I would try to write the suspense, and then I'd have to do the research, and I would get stuck. It was like
Yeah.
God put the brakes on really fast.
Yeah.
Said, nope, you are I want you to do children's books because I absolutely find joy in writing children's chapter books
Yeah.
and middle grade and stuff. So that's why I'm actually, as my friend would say, flipping houses.
Yeah. You know
Uh,
what? Genre jumping, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but I'm flipping house with the whole book. I'm taking the scenes, getting inspiration. God's like, I've already laid the groundwork. I said, oh, Lord, what am I supposed
Yeah.
to do? Am I supposed to start this whole story? No, I've laid the groundwork. You use what I have already written, and I'll show you where to go with it. So that's kind of been the adventure with that. And then I'm writing a children's chapter book fantasy series, kind of a fairy tale
Yeah.
thing. So that's kind of my God, you tell God your plans and he laughs at you. Yeah.
Well, that it's so true, and that's super exciting for you, by the way.
Yeah.
When I like the book series, my new book series that's coming out in February was actually the first series I worked on when I really started working on like a novel series. And then, I really felt prompting, from God to like put that one aside, and I got this idea for the Heartmaker series, and I kind of just wrote it down and then just like forgot about it, and it was like, no, I'm going to work on one series, and I can't work on two series at the same time. But this idea kept coming back and back and back to my head. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm just gonna write it, fine. And so the funny thing is that, Heartmaker trilogy, this is actually republication with my new publisher, Quill and Flame Publishing. They are fantastic. I've loved working with them. Um, they are also publishing my new series I was telling you about. It's coming out in February. And that series, the new series, was the first series I was working on before I wrote the Heartmaker trilogy. So it's really funny how even though God said no then, he said yes now.
Yeah, he's telling you, wait, I got something better.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's super exciting.
Now, so the first one, and I know the third one is launching tomorrow. Well,
Yes.
tomorrow as we're recording this. But yeah, I know it's gonna be coming out a week later. But um, So the thing I'm reading this first one, and the thing I'm curious about, because I know in reality you can't live like this, but when the people's hearts are extracted, how in the world do they carry on?
Magic. No.
Well, it's possible in fantasy.
So so it's supposed to be more of like and I'm dating myself here, ABC's old series Once Upon a Time.
Yeah,
So if you've seen that show, in the series, the evil queen is able to extract people's hearts, and they're more kind of like a gem or something like valuable or something like that. And so that's kind of what I really pictured in my mind was happening, that like their hearts were taken out, but they were still able to function and everything, because it is a fantastical world.
yeah.
um but there were consequences of that as the longer their heart was out of their body, they would start to lose pieces of themselves. Their emotions would start to wane to like nothing, and they would just become kind of a shell of a person. So there was consequences to it. So yeah, I never pictured it as I've had to explain that. Actually, it's really funny to a lot of people. I'm like, no, it's not like gory or anything like that. It's not supposed to be like that, but more of kind of like it is like a valuable trinket, a valuable item, in which our hearts are. So it is a
Right.
very in your face, analogy that your heart is something precious and valuable to have.
Oh, you're thinking. Oh, you're thinking. Okay, I get it. You're thinking the emotional heart, not the physical.
Yes and no. They are, yeah, they are tied together.
Right, but I'm talking about in the novel. It's kind of like the metaphor of the emotional heart more so than the.
Yes, but their physical hearts do get taken out too.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, okay, I know this is fantasy because this would not happen in reality. The person would die.
One of my former editors said that, well, maybe everyone is just like an open heart surgeon, because like everyone's fixing all their hearts all of a sudden. And I'm like, well, maybe. So it's funny, but yeah. So sometimes when you enter a fantasy book, you have to accept the rules of the world, and I've done
I,
that with some other books. I'm like, okay, I'll go with it.
yeah, I'm like, I'll go with it because now I want to see because even though the heart was extracted, she holds on to it.
Yeah.
I've noticed that. I'm like, okay, that's
I know. I've
intriguing.
had a former, or not a former, but a nurse was a really avid reader, and she was one of the readers, and absolutely loved the series. So she's like, I just had to put my nurse and logical brain away while I read this series, so I wouldn't keep thinking
You have to,
that
or
was
you'll be like,
funny.
no, this is impossible.
It did make me laugh.
Yeah, and now I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen next because now she's in that evil realm, and
Yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of funny. So, um, and you said Heartmender, Heartbreaker, Heartrender are the
Yes.
three books. So is this? I know this is your debut series, but is this? And I know it's like asking you to pick your favorite child, but is this your favorite series? Was this your favorite one to work on, or?
Oh, it is difficult to choose. I think it'll always have a special place, not to be cliche, in my heart, because
Hmm.
it was my first series. I learned so much throughout the process of writing and publishing and what it is to be an author, and how the whole system works. I learned a lot about myself, um and met through this series. I've met so many great people and made so many great friends through just people who have read my book, and I've just befriended them online. So I think it definitely will always be special to me, and I don't think that can ever be replaced, because it was my first series. The series I'm working on now, I do love probably just as much, but for different reasons, because I'm a more mature writer now. I have more experience under my belt. I kind of
Hmm.
know, how to handle everything better than I did with the Heartmaker trilogy. I was kind of like felt like I was thrown to the deep end, and I was just trying to swim.
Yeah. So, do you have any tips or advice that you want to share that you've learned through the process?
One of the biggest things I have learned is to stay true to yourself and what you want to write. A lot of times people will want, not even just people, but just like the market and everything, will want to generalize your writings and want to make it like turn it into what everybody else thinks it should be. But if you, as an author, and also like if you're a follower of Christ and this is the story that God has put on your heart and on your mind to write, stick to that. There was a lot of times where, I got rejections about like Heartrender and everything, and the first book in the series. And, I'm like, I know this idea is a little crazy, but I really feel like this is a good book and people will like the story. And so, 3 awards later, it's been phenomenal to see that, God is always correct in following those promptings. And I'm very blessed that I was with my former publisher who published Heartrender, and then very blessed again to find my new publisher who wanted to republish it under their logo. And that still there are so many people who want to read it, and there are new readers now picking it up and reading it, and kind of revamping my love for it again because I'm getting all these new comments about it. So stay true to what you think, what God's telling you to write. I mean, that I think is number one.
Wow. Okay. So where can people find you online?
I am on Facebook and on Instagram under V Romas Burton. So that's a V and ROM as a mouse, AS BURTON. That's my handle for both accounts. You can find me on there. I also have a website, which is just www.vromasburton.com. And I post updates on my social media accounts pretty much weekly of what's going on in my life, what's going on in my writing, giveaways, if there's ebook sales, Heartmender. At the time of this recording, Heartmender is on sale for 99 cents. I have to double check to see if it will be when it's aired. But all the books are available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere books are sold. So I'm very easy to reach. I love hearing what readers have to say about my books. So like never hesitate to reach out if you've loved a part or have a question about something. Like I'm always open to that kind of stuff.
Okay, so before we get into the Bible verse and stuff, but I have one other question. Do you have a call to action you'd like to leave the listeners and viewers with? It can be a challenge, a resource, anything you want. Any kind of action you want somebody to take when they walk away from this.
I would like for people not to be afraid of trying something new. So I went to school for government and I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And then God said no twice. And so then felt I was led to seminary, which was completely like out of like left field. And so I was like, how in the world am I going to be using all of these things in my life? I had no idea. And so now all of the marketing skills and everything I learned being a government student and all the theology I learned in seminary have both been used almost constantly as I'm writing my books. And I had never in a million years thought I'd be a published author. And so I'd say if you're being prompted to do something different or something that seems really strange or like, you feel like God's telling you to go like this way that's totally opposite than what you thought, definitely listen to it because you have no idea where it's going to lead. And this has been an amazing journey. It's never been boring. That they say, following God's plan, like you're never gonna be bored again. And that's definitely been true. And I've been so blessed to be on it. And I'm blessed to have a wonderful husband and family who support me completely. My parents as well, my sisters and my in-laws, everybody has been so supportive of me and like buying my books, reading them and stuff. And so it's been a fantastic journey. So I really want to encourage you if God's been prompting you to try something new or not necessarily just writing, just anything, studying something different, finding a new job or anything like that. Sometimes it's good to, not sometimes, it's always good to follow God
Right.
and those promptings and jumping in and jumping in with faith and, trusting him that it is all going to work out.
Right. So do you have a a Bible verse you'd like to share?
I have my favorite Bible verse, which is from Proverbs, and it's the delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. And I find that's been very true in a lot of aspects and a lot of areas of my life. And even when things, I've had just like everybody else, and probably people who are listening to this, hardships and hard times and things you've gone through. And, even in the hard times, God is still there, and God is still, he's still watching, he's still listening. He hasn't left you, even though it feels like that a lot of times. And so, I definitely feel like and know that continue to trust God, continue to have faith, continue to push forward, and that he hasn't forgotten you, and he's still be there.
Right. Did you show the books while we were talking?
I don't think I did. Here's book 1. This is Heartrender. Very nice. And then this is book 2, Heartbreaker. And then the final book, which is the one that's coming out on October 5th, is Heartrender.
Yes, you got to see the. I wanted you guys to see. I wanted y'all to see those, and when you get them, give the as my friend Jen would say, hug the books.
They're very pretty.
Yes, just hug the books, because books matter. So, would you like to close us out in prayer before we keep going and going and going?
Sure. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this time that I've had with Anne. Thank you for these questions and this time to be able to get to know each other, but also talk about good things that matter. Just thank you for our audience and whoever is listening. Please, whoever needs to listen to this message, please let it prompt their heart and lead them in the way you want them to go. I pray you bless this time we have and just continue to guide us in your ways. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. So we challenge you today to go out there and read to get inspired, write something inspiring, and share your creation with the world. For when you've touched one life, you've touched thousands. Thanks for joining us on Inspirational Journeys. And remember, your story matters. Have a blessed day, everyone.